Hey everyone, this is Matt from End Sickness. Today I'm going to be talking about mycotoxin antibodies, what you need to know about mycotoxin antibodies. Most people have a very difficult understanding of what mold illness is. It's very wrong, unfortunately. They believe that, mold illness is something that simply you can just move to another place and it'll be fixed. Or some people even believe in the concept of colonization, that you get infected by these molds and that they follow you everywhere and now they're in your body and all these things. So I want to really clarify. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my mold illness story, my daughter's story, mycotoxin antibodies, exactly what they are. Can I heal from this? What's the prognosis here? And making the right choices everywhere, okay? Outside of, the mold thing. What can we do everywhere else to be able to reduce our sensitivity to mold? I'll talk about that. Talk about symptom-free life being possible. This is something that is very possible. I experienced it myself, my daughter, lots of clients I've worked with. And you just can't ignore the antibody concept, the last thing I talked about at the bottom. So here we go. Number one, my mold illness story. At one point, I had reactions to every single food you could think of. I'd lost 60, 70 pounds. I had rashes all over my body. I was eating 5, 6 different foods. I was extremely sick. I had parasites. I had fibromyalgia. I had, just a list of diagnoses. You want to learn more, look at my page, endsickness.org. But I was reacting to everything, and I was stuck for nearly 10 years until I came across the colostrum and got out of this moldy house unknowingly. But eventually I healed, got myself to a point where I was, let's say, 90% better. I thought that, I was healed already. But then I had my daughter and I got custody of her and she was really sick. She was always had illness issues and she was not tolerating supplements. I tried to give her the colostrum, tried to give her supplements and she would have strange reactions. Her eyes would cross, or she could have asthma, or she'd be itching herself till she bled, or she'd have behavioral reactions or whatever, right? And so once I felt like I was pretty much healed, I wasn't reacting as much to mold. I didn't notice it, just put it that way. But my daughter was ultra sensitive to mold, and I had no idea for 5, 6 years that this is what was happening. She was literally disabled from it, had neurological symptoms, seizures, everything I talked about earlier. Eventually we figured out it was mold. It was this mycotoxin sensitivity. We got out of the places that we were staying. These buildings were older. There was water damage unknowingly. Came to realize that probably 2/3 of the buildings out there had mycotoxin issues. Even her schools, everything. Had to remove her from school, had to homeschool her, had to, long story short, we moved to a different climate. We get to a place where, where she's finally well. We're in a new building. She's finally well within a matter of a year. The kid's symptom-free the first time in her life. And I finally realized the importance of mycotoxins. But I thought at the time, right, that we were living in a house and she was full of mycotoxins. And that's why she was sick, right? And that's what most of these doctors with mold illness think. They think, oh, it's because of how many mycotoxins that are in your body, and that's why you're getting sick from mold illness. It's because your body is saturated with mycotoxins, right? So they do these urine tests and they say, hey, let's see how much is in the urine test, and that'll tell us how serious the issue is, right? But that completely neglects the concept of mycotoxin antibodies. Mycotoxin antibodies is based on the idea that the person, doesn't matter how much is in the person's environment, it's how sensitive they are to it, okay? So you could have one person, for example, who have 10 times the levels of mycotoxins like my mom did in her urine versus my daughter, had over 10 times the levels, highest levels that they had ever seen in any test, my mom. In this house she was living as 100 years old. All she had was migraines, had maybe some skin issues, had some sleep issues, minor food sensitivities, but nothing. She was living a normal life, for the most part. My daughter on the other side had 1/10 the levels in her urine, but was disabled, complete neurological, everything a mess, like I talked about before. So it is not about how much is in your urine, it's about how sensitive you are to it. Okay, and this is what you find with a lot of autistic kids and these kids with behavioral issues and these chronic illnesses. They're ultra sensitive, these mycotoxin antibodies, and they don't realize they have all these antibodies in their system and they're reacting to something that's in their house. Okay, so mycotoxin antibodies, I just want to reemphasize this. The way this works is when you have mycotoxins enter the body, the immune system is forced to get rid of these things. Then the immune system creates a memory of what these things, in essence, look like on a molecular level. And when doing so, then they're able to go ahead and remember these. So when they come into the body, or they further come into the body, they start to attack them like a pathogen. They start to provoke an immune reaction, in essence, right? So the mycotoxin antibodies are your immune memory to being exposed in the recent past. The antibodies, the IgE ones, are the ones that you have for acute exposure, the last 21 days. And then there's IgG antibodies, which are could be the last several years even. So what you do is you test the IgG and the IgE antibodies, the mycotoxin antibodies to the mycotoxins, on a test by MyMycoLab. It's called the IgG-IgE mycotoxin blood test by mymycolab.com. All right, and they will check your IgG and your IgE levels. Right, this will show you if you've been exposed in the past or currently you're being exposed. This will show you how significant of an issue it is. Just to note, I would not follow their recommendations as to what to do next. I'm just going to tell you because I don't believe in them, you know, but the test itself is really an amazing thing. It's a life-changing thing because it could help identify what the real root cause of people having these health issues, these autoimmune diseases, these autism, whatever these chronic inflammatory issues are. And the antibodies to these mycotoxins prove to you if someone's had significant exposure, and that could be the thing that in fact is the biggest issue. I mean, you know, before we got out of the mycotoxins, my daughter's gut report, for example, was a 25% out of 100, got up to a 90% within a matter of a year, getting out of the mycotoxins, doing different supplements, changing diet, etc. And it all started, though, with getting out of the mycotoxins because the antibodies were too high. So whenever she was exposed, she was reacting, and it would cause this chain of events that had happened 1,000 times before, keep feeding into the same inflammatory cycle, and you know, and so on. So mycotoxin antibodies, the other concept is this mold colonization. I'm colonized by mold, and that's the reason I'm still sick after that moldy house. It's very rare, okay? If you look in the studies, the people who have cancer, people who have AIDS, these are the people who are showing up having infectious, being infected by mold, right? So you got to realize that this is very unlikely for a typical individual who has a chronic illness. Even they have a much better immune system than someone with AIDS or cancer or something, right? So mold colonization concept is often misunderstood. They think it's mold colonization. I got to fight it. I got to kill it. I got to take the Spornex. I got to take whatever it is, you know. But no, it's you have mycotoxin antibodies, and now you've moved into another house that has mycotoxins in it, and now you're being exposed again unknowingly, and it could be worse. This house, who knows, right? The only way to be able to figure this out is doing this mycotoxin antibody assessment by MyMycoLab, like I talked about. I'm not being paid by them or anything. This is just my favorite test in the world because it's made such a difference in my lives and the lives of clients. So can I heal from this? Okay. Yes, you are not colonized by mold. Yes, antibodies go away. It may take a couple years to get rid of these antibodies, but you could still be in a healthy environment, and the environment's not triggering you in the meantime. And as long as you stay in that environment, living in that environment, you could go out to other places that have mold here and there and not be concerned about it. As long as your home indoor environment is safe and you're not going to a workplace which is saturated with mold, you know, then yes, absolutely, you can heal from mold illness. You can heal from these chronic illnesses if you just really identify that these antibodies are present in high amounts. It could really give you the direction you need to get out of this situation. So making the right choices elsewhere, okay? If you make all the right choices with your diet, you're not eating too much meat, you're eating mostly plants, you're eating fruits, vegetables, rice, potatoes, beans, etc. If you're, you know, meditating, you're doing deep breathing, you're not taking 10 supplements. If your supplements you're taking are all immune modulators, they're plant derived, you're doing all the right things elsewhere, you will be less sensitive to mold or mycotoxins in your environment. And also, your antibody production can decrease, right? I've seen people who have taken colostrum, other things where their antibody production of mycotoxin decreases after doing these things for several months, even though they're in the same house, right? So yes, symptoms can get better even though you're sensitive to mold. It's not just like, oh man, this is the only option. Certain times when the person's literally almost disabled or incapacitated or having reactions to all these different foods, supplements, then at that point, got to get them out of the environment to get better, right? But if it's not that significant, where someone has a chronic illness, they're still able to tolerate supplements, different foods, they're not reacting to things, you know, then at that point in time, it's very possible just to get out of it. Even though you got a mycotoxin sensitivity, you can still get out of that situation just from making all the right choices elsewhere. So if you want to learn more about that, get in touch with me, and I'll tell you how I go over it with clients. And there's a lot more videos, there'll be hundreds of videos here, so keep watching. And you cannot ignore, okay, the antibody concept. Oh, let me see, I skipped symptom-free life. So symptom-free life is possible, as I said. You can live a life where you have no symptoms and you're healthy again. And you could go from disabled and what looks like hopeless to completely healthy again by understanding the mycotoxin antibody concept and realizing that you have to have a pristine environment. And often it could be a certain geographical location. It could be a brand new building. It could be lots of outdoor time. It could be heavy ventilation in your place. It could be 5 air cleaners in your 1-bedroom apartment. It could be if you go as heavy as you can with the ventilation and the air purity concept, you know, and you have this mycotoxin sensitivity, you will reap benefits quickly in ways you couldn't ever imagine. I mean, I received blessings upon blessings upon blessings from God from figuring this out, because I ended my own suffering and the suffering of my daughter and many others that I've worked with. And so you can't ignore this antibody concept. You cannot ignore it. This is the most relevant thing that no one is talking about out there in the traditional or the holistic medical world. And if you want more information on this, go to my page, endsickness.org. I talk about a mold illness recovery protocol, all kind of different things to be able to help you get over mold illness and this mycotoxin illness itself. Please join my page here, subscribe. I got hundreds more videos coming. We're out here in the woods. I'm in the middle of this beautiful location trying to teach you how to heal. Nobody's doing this. Subscribe. Thanks, everybody.